was reading a blog where they had mentioned down some of the titles that beginners should be reading. And to my surprise, there were a lot of titles on there that I quite disagreed with. So, for instance, Pride and Prejudice is definitely not a title that a beginner would love, what with its difficult language. Similarly, with Jane Eyre, although that book is a great classic, but I quite disagree that it's a book for a beginner because of the kind of descriptive narrative language the book follows. It is definitely going to bore the hell out of you. And likewise for, Haruki Murakami books or some of Charles Dickens' novels. So that's when I decided that I am going to put together a list of books that you, as a starter, should definitely be reading. And probably if you have some, reading goals for the future, these books will help you get there. Well, guys, if I can go and have a curated list of books for you, I can definitely ask you to do one small, simple task for me, and that is to go and subscribe to my channel and hit on the bell icon so that you don't miss out on any of the future notifications. So, guys, the first book on this list is Animal Farm by Mr. George Orwell. I don't think there's anybody who's not heard or read about this book. So, this is a must read for everybody, not just because it is one of the best classics to be read, but also because it's a novella of about 100 odd pages. Besides, the one selling point for this book is the plot itself. Now, imagine a book where the characters are animals and they speak to each other, they talk to each other, and they are actually fighting for equality, for their freedom. It has a political spin to it, but if you read it just for the story, you're going to enjoy it nonetheless. The next title that we have on this list is Room on the Roof by Ruskin Bond. This is one book that is most read, and I think it is one of the most loved books of all time. This book follows the story of Rusty, who is a 16-year-old teenage boy. He's recently orphaned and he lives with his guardian in Dehradun, that is the mountains of India. And he is so fed up of his strict, stern guardian that he runs away. And this book is about his experiences, his escapades with his friends, and essentially a coming-of-age story of this protagonist, who is Rusty. So, Room on the Roof, which has won millions of awards. Well, that could be an exaggeration, but it's definitely won several awards. This book was written when Mr. Bond was just 17-year-old himself. And it kind of holds a special relevance if you are from India or from the mountains of India. So, Room on the Roof is a definite recommendation. The third book on the list is Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. So we all know the classic tale of the little girl who falls down the rabbit hole and reaches Wonderland, where she has these weird but wonderful experiences. We all have heard of the books and we all have heard of the movie as well. But it's time to go and give that book a read because it's such an adventurous journey. It's quite playful, it's quite interesting, appealing, and it's got a different kind of a charm. No matter what age you are definitely going to enjoy reading this book. I am a total fiction lover, and having said that, I hardly read non-fiction books apart from history. But when it comes to self-help and improvement and stuff like that, there is this one book that I read in my college years, and it's called The Instant Millionaire by Mark Fisher. Now, Mark Fisher, who himself is a self-made man, he is a millionaire, and he's put together this book where a young man who is dissatisfied in life meets an old man who is successful, and what happens eventually is a conversation between them, which is wrapped in the form of brilliant storytelling format, and you get to learn some of the important parts, points, tips when it comes to wealth, when it comes to happiness, life, etc., etc. And a book which is about 150 pages. Its writing is really simple. It's not boring. It's not philosophical in nature, something that I totally cringe from. So I'm sure that if you give this book a try, there'll be things you will cherish, definitely cherish. And none of my recommendations are complete without a Stephen King novel in the list. Once again, I have a novel for you which I absolutely brilliantly love. And this book is Misery by Stephen King. It's one of his earliest novels, and this is not really horror. So for all of you guys who just thought horror for beginners, let me stop you there. This is not horror. This is a thriller. It's a crime thriller, and it's a psychological thriller actually. However, the characters here are ones that really stay with you, and they won't haunt you, but there are things you'll definitely know and learn from them. This story follows a reader who is rather a fan of one of the authors, and she goes to an extent of horrifyingly torturing the author when he kills her favorite character, Misery. So that's Misery for you, Stephen King's psychological thriller, one book that I cannot recommend enough. So go do yourself a favor, grab a copy and start reading it. You can thank me later. Do you know which is the most read book of all time? And no, I'm not talking about the Bible or Harry Potter. I am talking about The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. It follows the story of a shepherd boy by the name Santiago, who has these recurring dreams about a treasure lying hidden somewhere. He also meets a gypsy to unearth the meaning of this dream for him. All he finds out is that there is a treasure waiting for him in the pyramids of Egypt. And his journey all the way from Andalusia, the small town he lives, to the pyramids in Egypt, and what he encounters, how he grows to become a man of morals, of places, of ethics, of his principles. Essentially, this book is about chasing that dream, if you have to with a club, but never letting go of it. This is one of the beautifulest books that you'll come across that talks about why dreams are so important in life. The second last book on this list today is a short story by Leo Tolstoy. This book is A Prisoner of the Caucasus. Now, this book is a novella, and it was written in the 1800s, in 1872 precisely. And this story, Tolstoy himself had declared, was one of his best pieces because it was so personal. And it was from the time, from one of his experiences when he served in the Russian army. And this follows the story of two army officials who are taken prisoners by the enemy. And what follows is a rather moving account of how they struggle to free themselves from the enemy. So this is a novella which is about 80 odd pages and one of the most important stories to read. This is a book which is different from most of Leo Tolstoy novels, which are high on morals and ethics and philosophy, so to say. I am a big time admirer of Leo Tolstoy. I have read almost all of his books. So not just this short story, but all of his short stories are ones that you can start with, whether that's Whereby Men Live or Where Truth Is, God Is, and a lot of his other short stories. So you can pick up any of those, and as a beginner, I'm sure that you'll love those stories. Next book that is always high on recommendation is one from the poetry genre, and this book is The Little Book of Life by Khalil Gibran. Once again, if you just go and happen to research a little about this book, you'll realize that it is one of the most read poetry books of all time. And that's simply because of the engaging, simple, yet lyrical writing style. For the choice of words, the thoughts, so elegant and everything. And this book essentially talks about the importance of life, the importance of being alive, the importance of feeling alive, and the wisdom that one earns with age and how that transforms your life. All these titles you definitely cannot go wrong with, because believe me, I've read them in those times when I really was not sure what I wanted to read and how I wanted to go ahead with it. But these books have helped me out develop a healthy reading habit. And although not at present, but a few years ago in the past, I could read as much as 80 to 100 books a year. So that is doable. It's not impossible, and it can be done if you cultivate a good and healthy reading habit. And these books, one book at a time, will help you get there. I have shared the purchase links for all of these titles in the description box below. Alright guys, that's all for today. I'll be back soon again with the second part of the series Books for Beginners. If you liked my video, please do not forget to hit on the like button. Do also share it with your friends and family. I shall see you in my next video. Until then, be reading, be inspiring. Goodbye.